Hi, everybody in the room, everybody elsewhere who's sitting at their computer doing things, getting ready to hear all the wonderful things that you have to say. I'm Linda Silka, and I'm a senior fellow here at the Mitchell Center, and just am really looking forward to your talk today. The title, Training the Next Generation of Leaders. Nothing could be more important to solve complex societal problems. The important role of internships. And you all are going to be helping us learn about this. And you had a wonderful person who was leading this program, Dr. Jessica Jansujwicz, who's going to be leading us and thinking about this. And she's the Assistant Director of Research for Maine Sea Grant, and she was the project coordinator for the internship programs. And the student interns will also be talking. So one of the things that's so important is a new generation of leaders and problem solvers is really needed to address the challenges that we face related to sustainability, conservation, climate change, public health, and other complex issues. And through this talk, we'll learn more about this. We'll learn about the lessons learned from the pilot internship program and the stories, because we learned so well from stories. Students gained hands-on experiences tackling real-world problems in Maine. Interns participated in a variety of collaborative projects, such as building GIS tool to help strengthen community resilience, tackling a town's unsustainable solid waste stream, assessing training priorities for new fishermen and aquaculture farmers, and additional training in leadership, collaboration, communication. So it's just a very important interlinked set of issues that we're going to hear about today. So thank you for giving us a chance, Jessica, to learn today.
Thank you, Linda. So I wanted to start first off by saying, although Linda introduced me as leading this program, I do want to say that this was a collaborative effort, and that I may be standing here presenting, but this was truly a group effort here at the Mitchell Center. So I just want to acknowledge David Hart, Ruth Halsworth, Carol Hamill, as well as the many partners and faculty that really made this happen. Some that I'll talk about today as part of the project, but also many behind the scenes that made this possible. But the real stars of the show are the interns, some that are pictured here, and 8 of them who are joining me today to help present. I'm going to talk about the Mitchell Center Pilot Internship Program. I'm going to start with just some background and context for this program, share a little bit about the structure and what we did, and then talk a little bit about why we think this program is really unique and special. And I'll draw on some really high-level examples or illustrative examples from the internship work. But I'm really going to give the stage to the interns, because they're the ones who really could share not only the diversity of projects that this internship encompassed, but also share their experiences and what they learned and what they took away. So they're the real stars of the show. I am just going to set the stage for their research, and then I'll return to talk a little bit about the future of the program, because you notice in the title it was a pilot. But we're hoping to continue this work. So why are we doing this? Why do we need this new approach to student training and to research? And simply put, it's because traditional approaches to student training and to research have not worked. And I drew on this example. It was an op-ed that Linda Silka, who you just met, who introduced me, had put in the Bangor Daily News, because I think it really captures what I'm trying to say perfectly. And in that, it says that scientific research plays a big role in our lives. We've come to rely on it in so many ways. It seems that every day we hear someone say, well, research has shown. How many of you have heard that line, right? But we're coming up against the limits of research as it has traditionally been done. The image of science, the one in popular culture of the lone lab-coated researcher hitting on a brilliant idea, is fast becoming outdated. So we now know that we can't really solve these wicked or really complex problems from one disciplinary perspective alone. We also know that we can't do this in isolation as academics. And this work has really been emphasized or this idea has been emphasized in a lot of the work that's come from my mentors and my colleagues. All of these listed here have been affiliated with the Mitchell Center. And basically what they're saying is that we need to rethink how we're doing things. The first one saying we need to think about how we can better align research with societal needs. We also need to think more about this idea of community and university partnerships and how we can use them to strengthen knowledge co-production. And then lastly, we also are thinking about our students and building these skills necessary for them to enter the workforce. And we do this through active learning, through engaged research. And one of these ways is through student internships and professional development. And this last one is by my colleague, Dr. Sandra Diarste Stone, who is leading the NSF NRT training program, which embodies much of this research. And a lot of this provided a great deal of background and things for us to jump off of and build this internship program as well. So with all that in mind, we're really fortunate because here at the Mitchell Center, we're really well positioned to do this type of work. And in fact, a lot of those practices and principles that I just talked about in some of the research and in some of our thinking, we've been doing here at the Mitchell Center for a really long time. The Mitchell Center has trained over 290 graduate students, of which I'm proud to say I am one of them, 630 undergraduate students just in the last 13 years. And we've done this using a variety of approaches, again, some of which I as a student and as a postdoc and a faculty have been able to participate in. So through building student cohorts, through leadership and training courses, through team building and co-mentoring, and through partner engagement. And I just want to emphasize this last one because it's engaging partners throughout the process, bringing them in to help define research questions, engaging them in team meetings, engaging them in co-producing the project and the outcomes and the outputs. So we were really able to build on this history of learning to build this pilot internship program. So what did this program look like? Well, the idea came, I think it's been brewing for a long time, right? Based on all these ideas. But I was approached maybe somewhere in February, like, we have this idea. Do you think, what do you think about helping us move this forward? And again, it wasn't just me, it was a bunch of us who had a lot of ideas and ways to move this forward. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to take the leadership and help move this forward. So the way this worked out in our pilot program, we put out a request for proposals in March, and this primarily went to our faculty fellows here at the Mitchell Center asking, who is it you're working with? What partners are you working with? What questions do they have? What capacity needs do they have? Could it fit into this program? And would you like a student to help build capacity in your research and in your partner organizations? So we got a request that came in for proposals. We had a review panel. Again, this was a group effort. So a lot of the faculty fellows stepped up to help us review some of these proposals. Ultimately, we selected 5 projects at the University of Maine, excuse me, and the University of Maine, Machias. 11 students were involved, 8 of which will be here participating today, which is pretty incredibly awesome. 5 faculty and around 6 partners. And I say around 6 partners because some partners were brought in as the internship proceeded as well. The program encompassed an orientation and some training, which I'll talk about in a little while. And that all happened in May. So again, you can see this pilot was quick turnarounds. We were able to accomplish a lot in a little bit of time. And the internship project started in May, again, kicked off with the orientations and the training. Some of the projects, well, I'd say 4 of the projects, well, I think all of the projects went through June with Mitchell Center funding, and then partners leveraged some of their resources, and most of the interns continued through the summer on their internship projects. So what's different? So we think our program is unique. We understand that there's a lot of other programs that use this model of hands-on experiential training, and we know that's not a new approach, but there's some things that make our program unique. The first is this emphasis on building long-term solution-based partnerships. We also think the program really satisfies that need to enhance the skill set of our interns, right? Build the knowledge base, build the technical capacities, and the professional skills needed for students to fill critical gaps in government, private sector, NGOs, community organizations throughout the state of Maine. So the next few slides, I'm just going to share some examples of what these great interns were doing to emphasize some of these components and key components of the program that we think make it unique. And then I'm going to ask the interns to come up and kind of fill in the gaps. And as Linda introduced, to tell their stories, because I think that's really the richness of the program. And I think to really bring to life this program and some of the outcomes of our pilot experience. So the first thing that makes this unique is that it's solutions-based and it's Maine focused. So this is a project by two of our students, oh, I shouldn't say two pictured here, but also another undergrad and another master's student. So Lucy Martin and Gab Ben featured here, who I think will be running through the door any minute now to join us. But this was focused on understanding visitation trends in Maine's parks and public lands, including any barriers to recreation in these spaces. And the goal of this was really to understand and inform the use of state resources to support outdoor recreation in Maine, because we know during COVID, outdoor recreation really changed. And so what of those trends will be sustained and continued, and how should we support expanding outdoor recreation experiences in Maine? The second reason we think this program is really unique is that it's partner engaged and co-developed. So it's really helped us in a couple ways. It's helped really build new partnerships, but importantly, it's also helped to strengthen existing partnerships. And this project, we have two interns working on this project, Rachel Pellis pictured here and also in the audience, as well as a master's student pursuing a dual degree in business and EES, Jared and Twizzle, who's also on this project. But this project really emerged out of a project that Dr. Cindy Eisenhower was leading as part of the materials management team, focused on reusable packaging in Maine's restaurant industry. So again, it was able to support and continue the important and expand upon the important work that that team was doing. We also think this program is really unique because of its co-mentorship model. There's really two components to that. So the first is this co-mentoring by a faculty leader and a community partner. And this is one project you'll hear about today. We have Amy Dowley and Austin Simmons, who I believe are online, and we'll share a little bit more about this project. But what I wanted to emphasize here is a strong partnership between the students, the faculty, Dr. Tora Johnson at the GIS Lab and Service Center, and the Sunrise County Economic Council as the partner. And what was really special about this project was really the engagement of the partners throughout the process, starting with what is the need? The need was that the communities needed more information and visual tools to help them make better decisions. And throughout, there was a lot of back and forth and feedback, which Austin has shared in the past about how they really built the products and the outcomes together as a team. And just to emphasize that, one of the community partners said, the work that Austin and Amy have been doing is being used immediately. So it's really good to see that direct connection, so that it's not theory, so that it's actual. So remember at the beginning when I mentioned the one talk that was talking about, or one paper that was saying we need to better align our research with community needs, this project really exemplified that. The other part of the co-mentorship model, and I have these two wonderful interns right here who are going to expand a little bit upon their project that they did collaboratively with Maine Sea Grant with Natalie Springwell and Carrie Kazar, focused on the Young Fishermen's Development Act, which they will talk about. But what I really wanted to draw out here was that it was not only the mentorship between the faculty, the partners, and the students, but the other thing that we found really important and that we wanted to support was the mentoring between graduate and undergraduate students. So I can't possibly describe that experience as well as Emma, who will come up as our undergraduate student in a while and share those experiences. The other uniqueness of this program, we wanted to build in some professional development opportunities. So training in leadership, facilitation, communication, and collaborative writing. So our pilot program really tested in two of these activities, and we drew a lot on our partners and our colleagues to help us with this. So we did a virtual facilitation training, a two-part series, working with my colleague at Maine Sea Grant, Christine Grant. We also did a science communication workshop, and a huge shout out to Dr. Emily Urig as part of the NSF NRT Conservation Science Program. And both of these were really the first providing interns with skills and training and practice in facilitation principles. And the second was really trying to help students or student interns really think about how to distill really complex scientific information for diverse audience. So you really can talk about a project or a program very differently depending on if you're talking to your peers, if you're talking to a business, if you're talking to a park manager. So there's different ways of pulling out key points in the projects and sharing them with your audiences. So we worked on that a little bit through practice and through sharing, working in large and small groups. Again, I pointed to this in the introduction where one of the goals of our project is to demonstrate a continuity and a commitment to long-term partnerships. So we don't want these to be one-off internships. We recognize that students have a different timeline, right? You guys are working towards your degree, but we're hoping that these relationships with our partners will be long-lasting and that projects that happen during our pilot will raise additional questions and different needs that a next cohort of students might be able to jump in and answer. The other thing we were working on is building a cohort and team building across the projects. These students have very diverse disciplinary backgrounds. I think I described some of them: business, anthropology, EES, communications. So we wanted to provide opportunities, both formal and informal, for them to talk across projects and disciplines. And we did this in a couple of different ways. We held final presentations, which is where that quote from the partner came, where the students were able to present their work. They were able to present some of the outcomes. They were able to present some of the partners they were working with. They were also able to present some next steps of their work. I also held some virtual office hours for students just to drop in, ask questions, share what they were doing, get feedback. And then we also had an informal pizza outside this summer at the Mitchell Center where we all got to meet each other in person, I think for the first time as part of the program. Okay, so with that, I gave you a very high level introduction to what's going on in the program. I am noticing that 2 of our interns have not come yet, so we may need to adjust the timing of the different slides. But I really wanted them to come and share in their own words about their experiences. So you'll not only get an understanding of the diversity of projects, but what they really took away with them. So I will invite you guys to come on up. I have 3 here, so if you guys want to just come up, I can't remember. So Lucy's first, so I think it goes Lucy and Gab, so maybe we'll reverse when they come. So Rachel, why don't we start with you?
Thank you so much for that great introduction. I'm Rachel Pellis. I'm an undergraduate student in anthropology. This is my 2nd year here at UMaine, and I stumbled across this internship because I was looking for another anthropology class and signed up for Anthropology 225 with Dr. Cynthia Eisenhower. And it was one of the best decisions I could have ever done. It sparked this interest in me about how our actions have to do with the environment. And my family owns a catering company in New York. And so while I've always been somewhat passionate about the environment and how plastics are used, it's been really difficult to watch my own family's livelihood rely on so much single-use plastic. So when Dr. Eisenhower approached me about joining a project that she was doing with master's student Jared Entwistle, I was really excited to hop on his project about reusable takeout container systems. And the idea that if you could introduce systems throughout Maine, then you can reduce the amount of single-use containers that are used by implementing system pilots throughout different communities. So I started working with him doing case studies on different international communities and examples of positive pilots that he had researched. And then that led to this internship. So Jared and Dr. Eisenhower were approached by the municipalities of Bar Harbor and South Portland about working with their municipalities to focus on ways that their own communities could reduce the amount of single-use waste that they produced. So in South Portland, that goal was their Green Pledge program, which is for restaurants to reduce the amount of waste that they were producing, so that they could advertise that they were being these green partners. And in Bar Harbor, that's educational materials specifically for people who do not live in Bar Harbor. Because Bar Harbor has such a large tourist population, every tourist season they watch their waste stream be inundated by these outside visitors, and it messes up their whole equilibrium. So working with both of these communities, with South Portland, I was reaching out to restaurants directly, and I was using my role as a student to kind of bridge a conversation between the municipality and business owners, and finding out directly from the owners what exactly were their own barriers. And it was really fascinating because each of them had barriers that were really different from my community at home. And they had different concerns as well. Each restaurant and each food vendor had their own unique concerns and issues. And in Bar Harbor, I was listening to their town council and also listening to Dr. Eisenhower and Jared as they went through Bar Harbor's waste stream and really searched for their own issues and to figure out what they needed to do to reduce their waste stream, and then was compiling that into educational materials to be distributed throughout the municipality. So this internship has given me some really amazing opportunities. I got to present at the Maine Sustainability and Water Conference last year about some of this research. And it's also given me this new interest on impacting communities like my own and how to share information with others. So when I went back home over the summer, I went to my high school and I spoke with the AP Environmental Science students about how to be advocates, for science in their own community, and how to look at issues that were important to them and were pertaining to them, and how that was important to them, and how to share that information, and how they could make an impact with just the information that they were learning in class and transform it into something bigger and better. So without this internship, I don't think any of that could have been possible. And it's been really amazing to connect with all these different people and to learn all these new skills and then to put it back out into the world. And I'm so grateful for it. And
All right, so I know you just arrived, but I'm gonna back up.
Hello, sorry for my tardiness. I was in an R statistics course. As everyone might assume, that was really exciting for me. My name is Lucy Martin. I'm a graduate student. I'm an MS student at the University of Maine. I'm in the Ecology and Environmental Science Department or program. And as everybody has mentioned, I'm sure they're also in the NRT, Enhancing Conservation Science. My current research is looking at how the pandemic has influenced risk perceptions and behaviors of visitors to Maine. And so this past summer, I was conducting research in Acadia National Park for my thesis with the Park Service. And I had the opportunity last spring to kind of get some foundational groundwork laid in developing surveys and learning how to use Qualtrics, which was an entirely new platform for me for survey development, which really primed me to begin this internship with the Bureau of Parks and Lands this past summer with the Mitchell Center internship program. And so because I had that opportunity last spring to learn how to use this software and to understand how best to go about developing surveys, I felt much more prepared when going into my internship with Rex at the Bureau of Parks and Lands. And because of that comfort, I really was able to step into this concept of being both a student and a professional. And part of my ability to do that so comfortably was actually due to the partnership with Rex Turner from the Bureau of Parks and Lands. He is very good at making your points and your experiences seem relevant and important. And I think that is something that we all need, especially as students. To have somebody in the professional field in our lives who recognizes that while we are students, we still have information to contribute and that information is valuable. So it definitely also assisted in my potential and what I was searching for in the NRT in particular, which is connecting with conservation partners. And so now I do really feel like I have that resource and that connection with Rex from the Bureau of Parks and Lands. I'm still working with him. We're going into the pre-testing phase of our questionnaire that I began developing this summer. And that survey will go out in the coming weeks. So, and I'm also working with Gab on some of her work with Rex at the Bureau. So it is very important, and I don't think I would have gotten quite as deep of a connection if I hadn't gone through the Mitchell Center internship. Thank you so much.
We can try to get you back from our.
Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Gabrielle Venn. I go by Gab. I'm a new first-year master's student here in the School of Forest Resources with a focus in human dimensions. I'm also participating in the NRT Enhancing Conservation Science. I have a path that's a little different than most incoming master's students here. I was fortunate enough to start immersing myself at this campus since early June. As I moved to Maine during the summer, it was really hard to establish a group of friends and really make it feel like home. I was fortunate enough to start working with Lucy Martin, who was just here before me, on her master's thesis project, where I was able to have her as a mentor. This truly helped me transition and made me feel more welcome and a sense of belonging here to this campus. As the summer went along, I was able to start working with Rex Turner from the Bureau of Parks and Land on my internship project. This project has now changed to my master's thesis project. So I'll be looking at the barriers to outdoor recreation under the DIJA principles. So diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, and accessibility. This project, I'm very thankful for this experience because it really shaped the way that I work with different partners. And I work with different people throughout this this summer, and the mentors I basically was able to get in contact with through this internship. From my weekly conversations with Rex and Lucy, I've been able to meet different people from the Bureau of Parks and Land, different people from this campus, faculty here, and that's helped me frame like my massive research question, which I'm really excited to further develop. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without this internship. Thank you. We have a couple more.
Right. And before we get started, yes, I'm wearing heels, but I am still 6 feet tall. I know I look really tall up here. So I'm Gabriella Gurney. I go by Ella. I'm a second-year master's student in the Communication and Journalism department. So unlike some of the other students who have just been presenting, I'm actually in the arts and humanities. But my background is in conservation biology. My bachelor's of science is from St. Lawrence University in conservation biology. And I came here for communication and journalism because I've always been interested in bridging barriers and boundaries in places where people don't think they exist. For context, I double majored in undergrad and the other major was in theater, which you can tell by looking at me, but was also a really good experience because I learned that there are so many different ways to make connections with people, which is why I'm also in the NRT, which stands for Natural Resources Traineeship, if in case anyone was wondering what that means. And it's a National Science Foundation project. So even though I'm in communication and journalism, the National Science Foundation pays for me to be here because there's a lot of work to be done bridging boundaries, which is what I got to do with my internship over the summer with Maine Sea Grant. My thesis work focuses on coastal access, specifically in Maine's fisheries. So I've done a lot of different work in aquaculture and the wild caught fisheries landscape in Maine in the maritime economy. And that is what really paved the way for me to start working with Maine Sea Grant, thanks to Dr. Jansujwicz, because I actually was taking a class with her and she asked me if I had an internship for the summer and I didn't. So with Maine Sea Grant, I came into a project called the Young Fishermen's Development Act, which basically is an act that is about to be funded by Congress, that exists but doesn't have any money behind it yet. And the goals of the act are to fund training programs for the next generation of fishermen. So in Maine, that's a really interesting concept because there's a lot of kind of anecdotal evidence that there's not as many people entering aquaculture and wild caught fisheries, or there's suggestions that there are tensions between aquaculture and wild caught fisheries, or that one is better funded over the other, or that they have different priorities and needs. So what Maine Sea Grant did was conduct interviews on the docks with fishermen to ask them, what do you need? What are you missing? And what would be helpful for you to have in anticipation of this funding at a national level? So then I came in and my job was to write up all of the findings into a report, which I was told would probably be 12 to 14 pages and is currently sitting at 48. And that was a wild experience. But that kind of brings me to my moral of the story about my work, which is this work completely changed my perspective on working with a team. I know there is a general consensus about group work and group projects. I definitely felt those beliefs myself. I preferred to work alone. I felt that I wrote better alone, and I felt that I managed my time better on my own. I would never have been able to finish the 48-page Young Fishermen Development Act report for Maine Sea Grant if I didn't work with a team. So I was actually really well supported by Emma Bruzy, who's an undergraduate student who's going to present next, as well as Olivia Jolie, who's a recent graduate from the College of the Atlantic, as well as my supervisors at Maine Sea Grant. But when I came into this internship, I definitely thought I could do it alone, and I was really confident that I didn't need any help, and that wasn't true at all. And I had never had a team that was fully engaged with the work in the way that I got to encounter over the summer. I have never felt that I was able to rely on a team, know that they were supporting me, and know that there was task delegation because we were all good at different things. So the report is 48 pages long. I didn't have to write all of that alone, and it's a lot better than if I had just written it by myself, because not only is it done, but the content is better, the work is better, and there was just a stronger sense of partnership and collaboration and support. And for what it's worth, Emma's now working with me on my master's thesis work because she's shown me that I can't do this on my own, right? I do need people to support me. And that's okay. There's, again, going back to the start, right? There's the idea of the lone scientist in the lab coat, or in this case, the lone humanities person in the lab coat. We do wear those sometimes. It's called social science. You don't have to do it alone. And honestly, you shouldn't have to. And if you think that you do, I understand it, but I also think that's a real big point of pride. And the future of collaborative work is truly working collaboratively, not just next to each other, but with each other. So thank you for your time.
All right, and with that, we will have Emma.
Hi, folks. So this is caught on my earring, but my name is Emma Bruzy. I am a second year undergraduate student at the University of Maine. This is only my second year up in Maine. And I also worked with Maine Sea Grant this summer, which was incredible, with Gabriella Gurney. So I helped not only on the Young Fishermen's Development Act report, I just helped with appendices and everything that Ella was already talking about. But my job was also to help make the workforce inventory for the state of Maine. What is that, you ask? Basically, it's a giant spreadsheet that hurts my brain to look at. But it's every training program and resource for fishermen and aquaculturists that I could find in the state of Maine. It's comprehensive, but it was also really important work. It took me a long time, but it's really important because now we can compare that data to all of the interviews and everything else that we got, all the information that we gathered from talking to people out on the docks. And I did not get to be a part of that, but I did get to confirm those findings, which was really neat. It was my first time working with real data. And so I got some experience with that. I also learned how to organize data that people would look at and not know what they were looking at in a way that made sense. And now it's been transferred over to Georgia Sea Grant, and they are making a nationwide list, which is very exciting. It was also my first real opportunity, this internship was, to work in a professional setting, because I'm only 19 years old. I'm an undergraduate. Yes. I also got some great experience from the Mitchell Center. They hosted a facilitation training, which I participated in, facilitating a meeting. I learned some techniques that I will definitely carry over into the rest of my college career and also my professional career. And I got some experience with the scientific process. All of these things I would not have had experience with had I not done this internship, which sort of fell into my lap. I took public speaking, CMJ 103 with Gabriella Gurney. And so here's the thing is if you take a class, you should absolutely become way too invested in a certain part of that class, because then your professor will offer you an internship and it'll become your life. Because that's what happened to me. Basically, Ella came up to me one day after class and said, "Do you like fish?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." She said, "Well, I have an internship for you." And here we are. And since then, I actually have found a new career path for myself. I changed my major to environmental science, concentrating specifically in environmental policy and resource management, because that's sort of what I've been doing with this whole thing. And I really enjoyed it. I found a passion for it. I thought I knew what I wanted to do before I came to college. And then I got into it, and I got into this, and I realized that I actually was not as passionate about it as I had thought that I was. So I'm really, really thankful for this internship for sort of showing me something that I can take with me for the rest of my life. And I've already made connections, and I'm 19 years old. It's really, really neat. But my favorite part of this whole thing has been working with Ella. And I can see her, she's putting her head in her hands, but truly the mentorship part of this has been probably my favorite part. Getting to work with someone who can teach you a lot, but also who is still learning a lot, and getting to sort of grow together is really a neat experience. And I know it sounds very cheesy, and she's gonna laugh, but if you asked me who I wanted to be when I grow up, I would say Gabriella Gurney. Yeah, she's like a big sister to me now. And I wouldn't have had that without this internship either. On the whole, just an incredible experience. I really hope this program continues. And I actually got to continue to work with Maine Sea Grant over the summer after the Mitchell Center internship concluded. I'm really thankful for that, because now I have this experience for the rest of my life. And I'm only 19. So now I think next up is Amy Dowley.
Yeah, thank you, Ella. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Fun, thank you.
Excellent. Good afternoon, and thank you. My name is Amy Dowley. I'm a master's student in the Spatial Informatics program. And for this internship, I collaborated with Austin Simmons and through the UMaine, through University of Maine at Machias, GIS Laboratory and Service Center. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems for Computer Mapping, Visuals, and Analysis. The University of Maine at Machias GIS Lab recently established a memorandum of understanding to support the Sunrise County Economic Council to provide mapping, consultation, decision support, technical support, capacity building, and facilitation services to bolster community and economic development projects. And I want to give a shout out to our partners, Jen Peters and Elaine Abbott from Sunrise County Economic Council. Thank you for joining us today. In many ways, the internship kicked off this partnership between UMaine Machias and Sunrise County Economic Council, introducing GIS solutions to community visioning and decision-making processes involved with town comprehensive planning. Austin and I composed maps that we presented to local community members for feedback and revision. This slide displays one example of a map we designed to display local marine resources. For me, this was a unique opportunity to partake in a collaborative as well as iterative process, working with Austin to generate GIS content. And then with multiple opportunities to present content at the community level, I learned a great deal about how to present and share content effectively online with community members that had mixed levels of familiarity with GIS, but lots of experience to offer about their own community. With the support of our partners at the Sunrise County Economic Council, we focused on ways to promote engagement and support a greater understanding and appreciation of how maps and GIS resources are key tools for local planning and development. And so I just wanted to finally give an update that I've now joined the Maine Department of Inland Fish and Wildlife, beginning with Habitat Program, where I'm supporting comprehensive planning mapping across the state. So I'd like to acknowledge the role of this Mitchell Center experience in paving the way for this career opportunity. Thank you, Jessica, and all the staff at the center. Thank you to my advisor, Tora, and our partners, Jen and Elaine, and thank you to Austin, my co-intern.
Thank you, Amy, and congratulations. That's awesome. Will Austin be able to? Okay, Austin, you are up.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. And my name is Austin Simmons. I'm a GIS lab assistant and sophomore at UMM. Being an undergrad, this internship was a first for me in a couple ways. I got to get involved in aspects of both manipulating and sharing information, which is like my favorite thing to do. And a couple of the skills I picked up over the internship were how to prepare and conduct a productive meeting. That is, how to like get people to generate and structure ideas in a way that will lead to a productive outcome to kind of meet an end. The skills that I learned in the training actually were nicely transferred into the couple of the first meetings and throughout the internship with SCEC, the Sunrise Community Economic Council, and then later on joint support meetings were facilitated better because of the training. Another aspect of the internship that was really good was actually working with a graduate student, with Amy. It was very valuable time spent together working on the maps and getting the presentations ready for both SCEC and the Jonesport comprehensive planning community. I hadn't had experience with organizing meetings, and I got to learn what all goes into that and actually practice it. And so that was a very good experience. Another thing that was very enlightening was exposure to the local governments. As we progress on our work, helping the local communities, we actually were able to get in direct communication with the Jonesport Comprehensive Plan Meetings Committee, and to actually speak with them and see what their actual desires were, what we could help them with, and kind of working together to make progress was definitely an invaluable experience. And I'm still working with Sunrise Community Economic Council to help make more informed communities. And I appreciate the opportunity that the Mitchell Center has given. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. I think we have one more student, Casey, I see you there. And then I'll just wrap it up and we'll leave some time for questions. So Casey, take it away.
Thanks, Jessica. And thanks to everybody that came out today. My name's Casey. I'm a master's student here at the University of Maine, conducting research in environmental engineering. And I was another fortunate participant in this pilot program. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my project and experience. So the overall goal of my research is to develop field-ready water testing methods that are like simple to use, inexpensive, and you can get quick results. And I'm working towards this goal by trying out new cutting-edge DNA testing methods that are designed to quickly detect and quantify the presence of an indicator bacteria, one that a lot of people know is E. coli, and detect the presence of that bacteria in water resources. And while there's plenty of methods currently out there that work fine, it's becoming more evident that we might need to increase our monitoring capacity by making these methods cheaper and easier to use. So trying to avoid having to send samples to labs and the costs that are associated with that. And also in some instances, getting quicker test results would be very helpful to ensure better safety of recreational water sources, but also drinking water and commercial, say, shellfish harvesting water. So that's a little bit about my project. But my experience in the pilot program, I think, has helped me push closer to reaching my research goals in several different ways. But in my short little blurb here, I'm going to talk about I'm going to focus on the partnership building aspect of that. So during this program, I was able to take part in training with all these other wonderful interns and discuss how to communicate effectively with an audience. And it forced me to think more critically and ask questions like, okay, who's interested in my work? And how do I consider the interests of these groups in my work? So in my case, that's like test users. And those users could be part of, private farms or public entities such as the Department of Marine Resources and other researchers. Yeah, so it's helped me identify who those partners could be. And also it's helped me communicate with them and ask questions that are important pertaining to what they're looking for to improve water testing or that kind of thing. So anyway, the experience has taught me how to ask better questions and consider the needs and limitations for different groups and adapt that into my research. And I'm still in progress. I've just finished my first year in the master's program. I have another year plus who knows how long, but yeah, but anyway, this was a great experience. I've had great experiences with the Mitchell Center. So I threw up this picture up here on the slide of me presenting my project at the Maine Sustainability Water Conference in March, which was another opportunity for me to basically meet new people and communicate with them about my project and see if they're interested. So yeah, I'd like to thank, I want to send a big thank you to Jessica, David, Ruth, and Carol, and all the other interns. And it's been fun learning with all of you. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Casey. Yeah, so just going on what Casey said, I hope these stories from the interns showed you sort of the value that this program had, but also just to reinforce that word fun. What made it really fun for me was all of you and the interns that really had a lot of passion and commitment for the work. And so we're hoping to continue this with another cohort of students. And so just a quick word about the future, and then I'll pass it over to you, Linda. But a couple things we're thinking about, just wanting to continue to build on these partnerships, expand the program by reaching out to other partners. We also want to enhance some more faculty participation in this project. As anything else, as any other project, as any other pilot, building the capacity and funding to keep going. Continue to think about the student training and professional development. As I mentioned, we did offer a couple of opportunities, but working with our partners and with faculty and with the students to figure out what are some of the other gaps that we can fill with professional development. And then lastly, we know there's a lot of internship programs out there, and just figuring out how we might be able to leverage resources and work with other programs. So I think I left a few minutes, Linda, for you and for questions.
Everyone, wasn't this just so terrific? I see so many great people who have been listening, and I hope two things that will happen. One is that you'll send emails to the speakers, and if you need that information, the people at the Mitchell Center can provide it. But send, some information about what you learned, and 3 or 4 people you want to share what you learned with, because didn't we learn a lot? One of the things that was said was, now I ask better questions. And isn't that really central to the skills that we need as we do this kind of work? When we think about people, they told us so much, but of course they didn't have enough time to say everything. We heard a lot about moving beyond the lab and how important that is. We heard a lot about disciplines coming together. We heard a lot about community university partnerships and engaging partners and solution-focused work. And work that's really Maine focused, but can go on to other places. So in terms of all the speakers, and I don't know, Jennifer, if you're gonna Jessica, if you're gonna answer, or others are, but there was so much about disciplines learning from each other in terms of what was said. Do you have any thoughts about what you saw, or anybody else who spoke, what you saw in terms of either people changing disciplines or saying, wait, I really need to work with other people?
Yeah, I can start, and then any of the interns can jump in. I think that what was really fun about this program was we had students, faculty from diverse disciplines using very different tools in their research, whether it was GIS or surveys or PCR in the lab, and disciplines all across from anthropology and business and forestry and communications and ES. I know for Emma, she described how she came in thinking she was taking one career pathway in one particular discipline, and that maybe it was the exposure to some of these other disciplines that really motivated her to sort of change her trajectory and her career path. So that was exciting to see as well. I don't know if any of you want to say anything, or anyone online, about how your peers or other disciplines may have influenced your work. No pressure. Sure.
So when I came to college, I actually started out wildlife ecology. And then I realized that it wasn't exactly the work that I wanted to be doing. So I switched to political science because I knew I was interested in policy, realized that wasn't really the work that I wanted to be doing. And so I was a little bit directionless. I came into this, and I sort of saw a new side of this work that it sort of combined the two things that I had previous interest in. But the reason that I fell into this and now realize what I want to do for a job is because I was just open to opportunity and open to change. And it was just a great way to fall into this just by saying yes to things, which is something that I recommend everybody does, is just, if you are presented with an opportunity, just say yes. You don't know where it's going to take you. So yeah,
that's wonderful. That's just so helpful for us to be able to think about. Another interesting theme across some of the different presentations is how your past experience shaped, in some ways, what you saw as some interesting directions, say an internship could take. For example, Rachel talked about her family, and she ended up doing work on sort of thinking about reusable takeout containers. What, Jessica or others, what can we learn about finding ways to bring in what people's experiences have been with their families or in their community?
I'll say one thing quickly and then if anyone wants to jump up. I think in growing this program, one of the things that we are trying to do is maybe just what you're getting at, Linda, is to provide ways for interaction among the different projects and partners to share these experiences like the one that Rachel shared with us, in ways that people are communicating the work they're doing with their peers and perhaps with their family members, like you mentioned. Do you want to come on up? I think Rachel's gonna join us.
What this opportunity really showed me is that here, this problem that I had always seen in my own family's business, and I'd always kind of said, I wish that there was something that could be done for us to have less of a solid waste impact, or I wish someone would come up with a solution to that these big problems that had really plagued me weren't as, I mean, they're still big, difficult questions to answer, but there's something that can be done about them, and that you don't always have to leave something up to some mysterious other. There is ways to take action against the issues that you see. And even if they don't result in immediate solutions, even right here on campus, actually, they've reverted back to using a reusable takeout container in the Bear's Den. And Jared communicated with UMaine Dining when they were restarting that endeavor. And I got to be there right alongside with him when we were talking with them about that. And so to even just see like that actually taking place right here on campus has been really inspiring. And while progress can be really slow and gradual, seeing it take place right in front of you can still be really gratifying.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Amy talked about in her presentation, harnessing GIS tools for community resilience and prosperity in Sunrise County. And one of the things that she did, and a number of you did in talking about your experience, is talked about how you took different tools and really thought about, okay, how could those be useful to partners? Or partners might have been saying to you, we want to use these tools and we need to think about how to do it. As you were having the experience during the summer, did you find yourself beginning to think about tools and things that might have seemed, well, esoteric, and you realize that they may be really important tools that people could use? Any thoughts about that?
Amy, did you want to jump in?
Sure. My lights have turned off in my office, so I apologize. I'm in the dark here.
You gave a wonderful presentation.
I was more lit then. No, I just wanted to, it made me think of a presentation that Austin and I were able to do with Jonesport, and we had prepared a presentation where we were going to display some online tools, and we got to the event and realized, oh, right, everyone is going to use mobile phones to access this resource. And we had to switch gears, and instead of using the computer, all of a sudden, and this is Tora Johnson is not here, but hats off to Tora. She's always working on the fly. We were able to show people how they could access this tool on their phones, which brings this resource, into their house, wherever they are. The next time that they're with a friend, they can share this information. And so I think that idea of meeting people where they're at and empowering them to use something that's accessible really brings meaning to the work that you're doing.
So interesting. When I was teaching at UMass Lowell and teaching community people to use GIS, I was working with new immigrants from Cambodia and Laos, and people learning to use GIS. And I learned more than they did. in some ways. I learned more about their culture. They learned about GIS, but hey, it was not as complicated as some of the things we all needed to learn together. Amy, your presentation, and everyone, your presentations were really provocative, instructive, meaningful, valuable. And we're really sorry that we have run out of time, but everybody I think that's in this audience, I think would like to learn more from all of you. So do reach out. Let us have chances to learn from all of you. And congratulations on the skills you developed, the partnerships you developed, the knowledge you developed, the questions you developed. And Jessica, thank you so much for helping to build this, to make this happen. And I just, boy, I can't wait to tell lots and lots of people about just how wonderful this work is. So thank you. And we have to go now. So I'm sort of sputtering, but great, great, great work. Thank you.
Thank you to the intern.